Joe and I are here together to walk you through the mini project from last week. So each week we're going to try and give you some insight into our solution to the problem that we've had you working on. Now, in order for this to work, we'd like to ask you to do two things. First, if you haven't tried the mini project, stop watching, okay? Programming is an activity that you learn by doing, okay? So you're not going to learn so much by watching us as you will by trying it on your own first. So even if you're late and you're not going to be able to get a pure assessed grade for it, still stop watching, go try it, and then come back. Okay, for those of you who already handed it in, you already worked on your peer assessments, okay, this is hopefully a way for you to see how we decided to solve the project that we handed off to you.
Well, no. Let me say what really it is. Joe writes the code, and then Scott goes, "This is terrible," and then immediately rewrites it.
Well, that may be true, okay, but it's still we. All right. Okay. The second thing is we'd like you not to take these videos and immediately go post them on the internet for everyone to see, because that gives away the solution that it discourages people from trying, which is really just an extension to that first point that I wanted to make. Okay, so with that, we're going to take you over to the code. We're going to look at the code and we're going to walk through it with you.
Okay, let's go do it. This is going to be painful.
So this is our solution to rock, paper, scissors, litter, Spock. Okay, so first function here is number to name that we asked you to write. And you can see that this function is really just one big conditional. I need to take a number, which is going to be from 0 to 4, and I need to return a string that is actually the name. Okay, so it checks if numbers is 0, then return rock. If number is 1, return Spock, and so on. Now I will point out that this is Joe's code and I did not rewrite it, and he has this else here. Okay, so clearly if you didn't put 0, 1, 2, or 3 in there, you meant 4 and you're going to get scissors. Could be 6, could be 25, but it's going to be scissors.
Now, in my defense, Scott, you see my code. Do I ever make mistakes?
I'm just going to let that one go.
Maybe, okay. Maybe it's a good idea to put a check there at the end.
Okay, so you could just have another elif that says elif number equal 4, return scissors, else prints some kind of error message. Hey, you entered the wrong number, dummy, or whatever. Okay, all right. Named a number, pretty much exactly the same here. It's one big conditional, checking for the 5 cases. You'll notice again that if it wasn't rock, Spock, paper, or lizard, obviously it was scissors.
Yeah, I like scissors. Scissors is underrated.
All right. Okay, so these two functions are really just one big conditional. The meat of this program here is in the RPSLS function. Up at the top here, you can see that we have the comments directly from the template, where each comment corresponds to pretty much one line of code each. Right? And the interesting part here is this line that takes the difference between the computer number and the player number modulo 5. So now I have the difference. That's going to return a number of 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. So there are 5 cases. Now, what do we do with those 5 cases? Well, there's this conditional down here that checks them. Even though there are 5 possibilities for the difference, there's really only 3 outcomes for the game, right? You tie, the computer wins, or the player wins. And I want to illustrate, we know what happens with a tie, right? Difference is 0, and that doesn't even matter if you had took the modulo. Okay, but I want to illustrate what happens in the other cases. So let's imagine that the computer picks scissors.
See, look, he chose scissors. What'd I say?
All right, everybody always chooses scissors. Okay, so if the computer chooses scissors, all right, if the difference is 1 or 2, that means that the player had picked paper or lizard. And we know that scissors cuts paper and scissors decapitates lizard, so then the computer is going to win. So if we check that the difference equals 1 or the difference equals 2, then we know that the computer wins. If it's not, then it can only be 3 or 4 at this point, because it's not 0, 1, or 2, which means rock or Spock, both of which beat scissors. Okay, so then we can have this if, elif, else, and this does cover all the cases. There's no extra case here that's missing. All right. After that, we convert the computer number into a name and we print out the results. Now, I want to point out 2 additional things here. Up here, okay, we're given the name and we want to convert it to a number. Well, we have a helper function that does that. We asked you to write that helper function. You should use it here. Don't repeat the code here. So if you have a function already, either because we asked you to write it or you wrote it on your own, make sure you use it. Don't repeat the code. Same thing down here. I have the computer number. I need to convert it to a name. We use the number to name function. Right? And that's pretty much the solutions for this project. I hope this was helpful.
Yeah, one more comment on here. Be very glad that Scott doesn't have time to expert assess 50,000 projects.
Are you saying I'm not a nice guy? I would be mean on the peer assessment?
He's a really nice guy.
All right.
We'll see you next week.